Hello, everyone. Just wanted to have a quick chat Sunday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Markets are crazy. Things are crazy. Government is disturbing. So it's time for a little bit of philosophy, of which I like to delve into more often than not. Money. What a better topic. Is there a better topic to ever talk about? So, um, people work, people get a paycheck for money, and they are paid in dollars. So dollars is a form of money. There are many forms of money. Money is a capacity for a person to transact. It facilitates the transfer of value in exchange for something in return. So why is it that the status quo prevailing opinion is that money is measured in dollars? And is that good or bad? Aside from it being good or bad, it is the case. Most of the general public do not think of things in terms of anything other than dollars. Well, yeah, you have to, sure. But what I find myself burdened with, or at least thinking about so much, is that it's not, it is accepted. It is just accepted. If you ask someone in a random place of business, what do you think about gold? They're like, I'm not going to buy it. They think of it as a purchase. They don't think of it as a value, as a transfer of value into another asset class that has value. They're like, what if it loses or gains money? What if the dollar appreciates or depreciates relative to gold? It's all about perspective. And that's the whole point of the video, the title at least, perspective, and trying to retrain one's mentality to think about things from a different perspective, because nobody gives a shit about dollars. The person at a hair salon getting a tip for doing someone's hair doesn't give a shit about the dollar tip they're getting. They care about the value that was transferred to them. And the perspective needs to be broadened. Not that it's going to happen, but I would hope that someday people's perspectives are expanded, because I was sure as hell like to get a tip in a $20 gold coin. I would be like, whoa, cool. That's great. I would, or maybe a portion of it. Well, that's where cryptocurrencies are so absolutely fascinating, because you can get a tip in a cryptocurrency, which is a transfer of value from one person to you. And then you could easily convert that into varying assets to diversify your value that has been transferred to you. And it is much what we need is perception expansion, and not to just be, I hate saying not to just be the average person, because that implies that the average person has a shortcoming, and that I don't like having that kind of sentiment. I don't like speaking with that kind of sentiment. But it is truthfully the case that the average perspective is that of succumbing to the rule, succumbing to what is told to them. There's no critical thought. There's no questioning of their own thoughts. So the first thing to always do is, when you have a thought, you need to ask yourself questions about that thought. And that's how you have a dialogue with yourself, and you come up with alternatives. You have pros and cons, for and against. Do this, do that. Why should I do this? Why should I not do that? Is it a good idea? Is it a bad idea? And this is very important with regard to investing. It's not just, do I buy something? Why do you buy it? Does it fit into a big picture? What is the plan of action? What is the strategy? What is the thesis? So this is such an important thing to try and do. And once you try and do it, you get better and better over time. And I am by no means a successful investor. yet. I'm hopeful, but my thesis, what I know, here's an interesting rational train of thought. I am not necessarily successful yet, but I know because my thesis is rational, the notion of diversification is meaningful, the notion or the identification of the asset classes that I placed value in is not just a rational choice, but there's logic and there's so much merit to the places I place the value. It, it has to be a good choice. It has to appreciate a value over time because society is changing in this direction. Society is changing towards cleaner energies. So that's where I place some of my bets with regard to equities. But the original point of the video, the whole topic was, are you over invested in dollars? And I think that is a great icebreaker for someone that has never, ever, ever done anything other than dollars. Because they're obviously over invested in dollars. And, and then hopefully it starts a conversation. And it's not guaranteed to, but in some regards, I like to think talking with anyone is an opportunity to try and help them, not give them advice or not tell them what to do, but to just spark their own thinking. And that's all we could ever do is try and help other people by sharing our thoughts and that's the whole thing. That's language and that's semantics and that's the whole. People go to college for communication and how to transfer thoughts to other people vis-a-vis verbalization. It's a fascinating, I guess, science in some regards. You're right. The masses have no critical thought. Most people just move wherever the wind blows, and it's true, and it's disheartening, and it's sad and unfortunate, and I feel bad. I mean, it's like people taking a 401k with their job and never knowing what's in it, and then the market just blew up 40%, and they're like, "Oh, everything's gone." Well, did you do anything about it, or do you think that it was just miraculously going to go up? I mean, you feel bad, but it's kind of like you don't feel bad because you got to know what's going on. If you're going to get anywhere, you have to try. You have to put effort, which means learning and knowledge and critical thought and choices, and not always easy choices, very difficult choices. So these are just things I think about a lot. Are you over invested in dollars? What a fascinating question. Now, I don't recommend bringing this up with grandma and grandpa. I guess the phrase that comes to mind there is you can't teach an old dog new tricks. But with regard to, I got cousins that are like in their 20s, and that's the prime person to ask this to, because if you could get them to start diversifying their value, their value allocation, everything's changing. It's not like the 80s and 90s and even 2000s where, it was still the system trending, the engine was still working. I mean, as of right now, there's been things done that haven't been ever done. There's fundamentally the critical pillars of the financial system since we came off the gold standard have fractured, and it's uncharted where things will play out. And some people would say this is a continuation of 2008, which is overwhelmingly obvious. But since 2008, this QE, this printing, and what we're doing right now is far beyond QE, which I've discussed and I've talked about on Twitter, and Brent Johnson talks about, Raoul Pal talks about, and Peter Schiff has his perspectives. Yes. Yeah. Well, that's such another thing. That's another video. Work and compensation. I am frankly tired of doing things I don't want to do, but I need to do it in order to get paid in dollars, and then I convert those dollars into diversified investments across the board, retaining obviously a good portion of dollars because dollars is liquidity, which allows me to purchase goods and services that I need without having to convert one asset to another in order to make that purchase. Now, crypto is fascinating because it's almost there, particularly with the crypto credit cards. You can have your value stored in diversified crypto, diversified always to retain and hopefully grow value the most. And then as you need a value for goods and services purchases, you could allocate as needed to the credit card, and you can make purchases. So is interested in being diversified. I don't see a reason to hold vast majority of money in dollars, especially with money in dollars. The vast majority of value stored in dollars, considering what's going on. My man, 3 a.m. I'm sorry. How do you see the weight of having BT? So, you know, it's all about momentum and scale and size. So Bitcoin is huge, relatively speaking. It's the largest allocation of value in the crypto sphere. And DigiByte is not. So I would not. This comes down to risk versus reward. Clearly, if DigiByte starts to get proportionally valued relative to Bitcoin, the reward would turn $1,000 into millions. But the risk is proportionally equal, or it could potentially be even worse. So this comes down to your own personal discretion. I don't see any logical way to justify allocating a portfolio too risky. You work $4 or fiat in the respective country, and you convert it to other assets to retain value. Therefore, the vast majority of one's portfolio needs to be structured to retain and grow value in the most safe way possible. Historically, from the equities perspective, that was always like REITs. But now that's another story, another topic. But the whole point is you simply can't. You can't. As much as I love DigiByte, as much as it's a large part of my life and my portfolio, and how much I believe in it, how much I participated in the project, and how much, frankly, if I was able to quit my day job, how much work I would do because I want to, not because I'm compensated to. It can't impact the decision to place excessive value into DigiByte, and that's just honest and that's true. I don't see any reason you can't allocate a good portion, 5, 10, 15%. But even 15% seems a little scary. I mean, it was just at 0.3 cents, and now it's over a penny. What if it goes back to 0.5? You allocate, if you have a $10,000, that's all the money you have to your life, and you allocate 100% of it, and you lose half of it. That's pretty scary, man. If they just think of all the work you did to get that value. So you just can't. As much as someone may want to, as much as I love even hearing the word DigiByte, you can't do it. It's just not safe, and you just can't do it, guys. Do yourself a favor, protect your value. I see it's easier for DigiByte to get to 13 billion than Bitcoin going to well, you see, that's a fascinating. Well, DigiByte going to $1 billion market cap, it's only like, I don't know what's the market cap right now. It's probably like 6, 7 times what it's at. If it's at 200 billion, it's 5 times. 200 million is 5 times. So that it's not going to take us really where everyone wants to go. If you put $1,000 into DigiByte today, let's say it's 200 million market cap and 5x to $1 billion, you're only going to turn $1,000 into $5,000. So that's not much of the gains that everyone's hoping for with regard to DigiByte. Hello. Hi, Shadow. If you have any questions, if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to chat about specific topics. But I'm kind of digressing a bit here. Well, we started out about money, and are you overinvested in dollars? And we got into a little bit of diversification and the need for it to protect the value that you worked your ass off for. We talked about DigiByte. I don't know. I've ranted in the previous videos about my thesis, my investment thesis, and I don't necessarily want to take this video overwhelmingly in that direction, but I could state that my thesis overwhelmingly is infrastructure. I like putting value in things that consist of components that facilitate everything else. So I'm totally fascinated by Ethereum liquidity pools right now. It's not just Ethereum, it facilitates the whole concept of the traditional financial system in the crypto space, which is downright tantalizing. What do you think of doing a DigiByte wallet in Flutter? Yeah, so my man, this is what I would love to do if I didn't work, if I had the time to do the things I want to do. The Android DigiByte wallet, the source code is not what I would argue good. It is based on legacy code built by another company, which I absolutely rebuilt pretty much from the ground up. But the core components are still from that company. The user interface was gutted and rebuilt and restructured to be hopefully somewhat decent, and everyone sees the shape and form of the product that it is currently, and that's because of that facelift. And that's the extent of what I would describe the wallet. It was a massive exercise in a facelift. A huge amount of code, and frankly, DigiAssets was an absolute huge amount of code to actually get it working with APIs that weren't tested, unreliable, and a little bit unstable, and they're still a little bit unstable today. But actually getting that stuff working is very complicated and took countless hours. I don't know, 100, 200, 300 hours. I don't even know where I found the time when I did it. But Flutter, yeah, Flutter is everything. Flutter is cross-platform, the holy grail of cross-platform. I would say it's overwhelmingly superior to React Native in that regard. I think the potential is wonderful to do something in that. And I brought up Flutter the other day on Raptorel says, yeah, I know it's done. Oh, my man. I don't know everyone's handles. So the address book, sure, you know, I frankly, the address book is counter, uh, uh, um, is a non-starter. It's what's the word? It's not. It's you can't do address books in blockchain, because that means you're using the same addresses over and over again. It's an anti-pattern. It's an anti-pattern. So by making it and encouraging people to use the same addresses over and over again, we're actually encouraging bad behavior. So so that's part of a complexity from a product management standpoint, and we shouldn't have done that, and we really shouldn't release that, in my professional and personal opinion. Yeah, dude, Flutter works on everything. Flutter is the holy grail of cross-platform that everyone's been looking for the last 10 years with PhoneGap and Cordova and whatever the hell companies and people have used over the years. Flutter, I could do a whole video on Flutter, why I think it's an absolute dream of a solution. Well, I propose a complete rewrite in Flutter. Can I participate in it? As of right now, I'm overwhelmingly swamped with work, and crypto would have to do what everyone hopes it to do, and then, yay, I would love to. Is solution. It is a solution. Why not redo everything in Flutter, make it beautiful, start fresh, take your time, and but bear in mind, what's the return on investment? There's 1,001 wallets out there, and frankly, the future really is like a hardware solution where the storage of mnemonics are isolated from the software interacting with it. That's really like Ledger. Ledger has a absolutely ridiculous mobile product. The capabilities, it just works, and it works via Bluetooth. It's really cool. Yeah, man. Oh my God, Cordova, Xamarin, React. Oh God. I mean, React Native is cool, but it's written in JavaScript, so syntactically it's not very enjoyable, in my opinion, coming from like statically typed languages. I mean, Kotlin from Android is obviously, you can statically, but it doesn't have to be. So I find Kotlin to be a beautiful language, and I find Dart is very comparable to Kotlin. It's very comparable to Swift. So Dart for Flutter is anyone who's written Swift and they're going to understand Dart. It's just going to be it's not no, learning a new language isn't an instant transition, but I guarantee you'll be able to hit the ground running and start doing something Dart is wonderful. And with regard to Flutter, you can't write in Kotlin, but you can write in Dart, and Dart is statically comparable to Kotlin. If you know Kotlin, you're going to be able to code Dart and Flutter. Now, do I think native apps? This video totally went off base. But if you code native apps and you know how to code Kotlin, you're good for many more years. You're going to have industry for many more years. The amount of companies that have legacy products, they can't just write off hundreds of millions of dollars worth of applications, because that's how much these applications have cost over the last decade, half decade to a decade. So if you know Kotlin, you're going to be able to find work. And if you know Kotlin, you know Java, because you probably came from Java. So you're going to have work for at least the next 5 to 10 years in the Android space. Oh, Flutter's wonderful. Here, the kicker is Flutter has a better frame rate than a native Android application, because Flutter is compiled into a binary. Flutter creates a view. Literally, the whole Flutter activity is a view, and the native component draws on the view. So it's literally bypassing the Android SDK's rendering framework. It has better frame rate than an Android app, and that means it has the same functionality on the iOS platform, and the same functionality on web, but obviously a different rendering framework. But the point is, it's the holy grail of cross-platform compatibility. The problem with writing the wallet in Flutter is, how do you combine the code with the NDK? Yeah, well, it's not, because Flutter, just like React Native, has an Android iOS directory structure. So you could jam your Android binaries in the Android hierarchy, and the same for iOS. Right, and then you write a Flutter module. React Native is called a bridge, but the point is, then you write an interoperability layer, and you're interacting with the native component on the respective platform, and it'll just work. I mean, is it going to happen quick? No, this is going to be some serious trial and error to get this stuff working. But I have there is zero doubt it can be done. 100% can be done. But this is time and effort. And as of right now, I guarantee you, everyone in this chat's going to be waking up at 7, 8, 9, 10 a.m. tomorrow morning to go to work. So time is money. And that's probably the most unfortunate thing about what we all do on a daily basis. We all trade time for money. And that's what the whole holy grail of investing is, where you're not trading time for money. Your investments, your money makes money. Your value makes money. Money. I hate that word. Is there any QA medium to I would imagine you have the same testing infrastructure. I mean, what I've learned over the years is a well-structured application that has very profound unit testability is going to have very little functional issues. Android-centric MVVM and live data, and no hard coupling between the view model and your view controllers, activity or fragment. So you soft couple it with a live data callback, and you do everything at the view model level, and then you break down your view models using delegates in Kotlin. So you modulars everything with single purpose structures. You have a class that only does shit contextually related to that class, and that way you can literally instantiate your view model and test everything. Load users, make the API call, get the API call response, and then you pipe it over live data back to your activity and fragment. And by doing so, you're literally able to unit test user interface functionality merely by having an architectural structure as such. Yeah, coroutines are ridiculous. If you're talking about like RX versus coroutines, I used to lean towards RX because it was what I used for so many years. But nowadays, coroutines are really elegant and beautiful, and they really facilitate wonderful data mockability, which just profound testing implications. I'm gonna have to rename the title for this video. It's not just money, and are you over invested in dollars? Epic digression. Dude, coroutines are ridiculous. Absolutely awesome. Oh, and my long position on DYDX is doing pretty cool. Yay. All right, guys. I chatted about what I wanted to chat about. We chatted about some other fun things. And let me tell you, if I was able to not wake up tomorrow and go to work and I could do the things that I actually wanted to do with my life, bet your bottom dollar I'd love to build a variety of applications for the DigiByte ecosystem. Frankly, I'd love to participate in what BlockNet is working on as well. I think Unibright, Kyber Network, and Ren, what they're doing on Ethereum, has no equivalence right now on UTXO chains. And I think BlockNet is the only one that has the tools and technology to do it. And they just need a little bit more work to get some sort of UTXO based liquidity pool functionality in place. And that is, oh my God, that is, you have a good one, bro. I'll see you. You have a good night. 325. Way too late. So, dude, Block could do UTXO liquidity pool. That's crazy. Everyone, I guarantee you, that's on this channel, and well, not guarantee, but the point is, most people are interested in swapping. They have this, they want this. They have this, they want this. They don't need an exchange. They don't need to put in pricing and bids and asks. And sure, many people want that, but the point is to swap, you need a liquidity pool and you swap at the prevailing rate, which is an aggregate price, an aggregation of prices from various sources. And that's exactly what Uniswap, Kyber Network, and Ren are going to be. Uniswap and Kyber are doing, and that's what we need on UTXO chains. And then, oh my God, the sky's the limit. And just a tantalizing notion. I would love to do that. Anyway, we talkied. If anyone has any questions, hit me now. Going once, going twice. I will see you next time. Thank you, everyone, for joining. I guarantee you'll have more stuff on my mind to talk about. Have a good week.